Everything changed in a matter of seconds. Welcome to NFL Nexus. We are thrilled to have you here for our latest explainer. And remember, subscribe to the channel, like this explainer, and comment on what you thought down below. You can also really support the channel by becoming a channel member. Now, let's get into it. Today, we are diving incredibly deep into the microscopic details that define a franchise teetering on the absolute edge. You know, in the NFL, a team's championship window isn't some sturdy, unbreakable structure. It's more like a pane of glass. It can hold a lot of weight, but under the right pressure, it shatters without warning. And right now, the Indianapolis Colts are staring dead at the fractures. If you look at their current roster construction, it is this terrifying, precarious balancing act. You've got raw, totally unproven potential on one side and incredibly fragile veteran dependencies on the other. One wrong step, one bad break in training camp, and the entire structure just caves in. Drawing on recent reports by Yardbarker and Sports Illustrated, we are going to unpack a franchise that is caught right in the middle of a monumental offensive breakout and a potentially catastrophic defensive collapse. So let's dive into this, because the 2026 season for Indianapolis is, without a doubt, shaping up to be the ultimate defining moment in their history.
I want you to pose this question to literally any offensive coordinator in the league, and I promise you, you will be met with a heavy, uncomfortable silence. What actually happens when the foundational piece of your passing game is just suddenly stripped away? This is the stark, undeniable reality the Indianapolis Colts are waking up to. Michael Pittman Jr. is gone. The veteran receiver packed up and departed for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And let me tell you, his exit has sent absolute shockwaves through the very core of Shane Steichen's offense. Pittman wasn't just another guy catching passes. He was the gravity that held that entire passing game together. He was the absolute, undisputed master of the 12-yard dig route. Picture this. The pocket is collapsing. The defensive line is pinning their ears back. The quarterback is desperate, and Pittman would just run right into the teeth of the defense. He was willingly absorbing bone-rattling hits from 240-pound linebackers just to keep the chains moving. He drew the double teams. He took the brutal punishment over the middle so others didn't have to. He was their absolute anchor. And now, that anchor has been severed. The Colts are drifting into uncharted and, frankly, highly dangerous waters.
Section 1. The 2026 Tipping Point.
We are looking at a franchise facing a monumental shift in its offensive DNA. Listen, when you remove a primary read from a playbook, you don't just plug in another player and call it a day. You have to literally re-engineer the entire system from the ground up. The stakes for the Colts could not possibly be higher. To truly understand the sheer gravity of this situation, you have to look at the raw data. 80. That is a massive, incredibly heavy number. That was Michael Pittman Jr.'s team-leading reception total last year. 80 times the quarterback looked his way when the pressure was mounting and the game was on the line. 80 times a defensive back was physically beaten at the point of attack. When you rip 80 receptions off a stat sheet, you are creating a massive, suffocating vacuum. And it's not just about the catches. The geometric impact of losing those 80 targets alters the entire spacing on the football field. Think about it. Without Pittman demanding inside leverage and drawing eyes from defensive backs, safeties can just cheat down into the box. That suffocates the running lanes. It changes the math for the run game entirely. So this isn't just a simple matter of replacing a few deep balls. This is about replacing the critical third down conversions, those red zone safety blankets, and the momentum-shifting grabs that keep exhausted defenses on the field.
A massive target share vacuum has officially opened in Indianapolis, and as we know, nature abhors a vacuum. Someone, somehow, has to step into that massive void. The departure of Pittman leaves the Colts frantically searching for a new primary weapon. Now, yes, they have Alec Pierce. Pierce is technically stepping into that wide receiver one role, and he absolutely brings his own elite vertical threat to the field. But here's the catch. Pierce is fundamentally a boundary threat. He is built for those long vertical stems and outside releases down the sideline. He simply cannot physically absorb the devastating, relentless middle-of-the-field punishment that Pittman routinely endured game in and game out. The sheer volume of targets left behind cannot just be magically absorbed by one perimeter receiver whose entire game relies on taking the top off the defense. The Colts desperately need a central force. They need a player who can operate in the chaotic, violent middle of the field, absorb serious contact from closing safeties, and just relentlessly move the chains.
Section 2. A new tight end elite. So if the perimeter is losing its anchor, that offensive catalyst has to come from the interior. And man, are we looking at a player whose trajectory is no longer just promising, it is currently hurtling through the stratosphere. We're talking about a player who didn't just survive his brutal introduction to the NFL, he completely dismantled every single expectation placed upon him. Tyler Warren did not just arrive in the league, he literally kicked the door off its hinges. Just look at the microscopic details of his rookie arrival. He earned a Pro Bowl selection right out of the gate. That almost never happens for a rookie tight end. He hauled in 76 receptions, completely obliterating the Colts' single-season rookie reception record. He racked up 817 receiving yards and found the end zone with 5 all-purpose scores. Guys, these are not just cute rookie numbers. These are the foundational statistics of a bona fide franchise cornerstone. Warren emerged instantly as the go-to target in Shane Steichen's offense. And when you watch the tape, it all comes down to his microscopic technique. Watch his release off the line of scrimmage. He uses this incredible hip fluidity when finding the soft spots in cover 3 zones, snapping his head around to the quarterback faster than linebackers can even process the route. He finished just 5 receptions shy of matching Pittman for the team lead, all because of that completely elite spatial awareness.
But here's the thing. The total volume doesn't even tell the whole story. Look at the microscopic detail of his efficiency. 67.9%. That is Tyler Warren's staggering efficiency percentage. He caught 76 passes on 112 targets. I really want you to let that sink in for a moment. Nearly 68% of the time, the ball was thrown in his direction, regardless of a terrifying pass rush bearing down, regardless of impossibly tight man coverage, regardless of whatever exotic defensive scheme was thrown at him, Warren came down with the football. That level of efficiency is just absolutely lethal. It means the quarterback isn't just throwing to a spot on the field and hoping for the best. They are throwing to a mathematically guaranteed outcome. When you combine his high volume with this kind of microscopic precision, you create an unstoppable, heavily calibrated offensive engine.
Section 3. The Target Share Vacuum.
We have to break down the frankly terrifying math of Warren's impending dominance, because with Pittman completely out of the picture, Warren is no longer just an offensive weapon, he is poised to become the absolute focal point of the Colts' entire passing attack. And the geometry of the field changes completely when a tight end becomes your primary receiver. Linebackers are suddenly forced into these impossible lose-lose coverage situations, and safeties have to cheat down into the box, which finally opens up that deep passing game for boundary players like Alec Pierce. The analysts are already doing the math, and the numbers are just astronomical. Analyst Matt Akata projects a massive jump in volume for Warren. We are talking about a floor close to 120 targets, with the realistic potential to reach anywhere from 140 to 150 targets in what could be a massive breakout campaign. You have to understand why 150 targets for a tight end is so incredibly rare in modern NFL offensive schemes. Tight ends are traditionally asked to do the dirty work. They block, they chip edge rushers, they stay in on max protection schemes. To command 150 targets, a tight end essentially has to evolve into a pure wide receiver who just happens to line up next to the offensive tackle. This volume paves the way for serious first-team All-Pro consideration. Think about it. If you take his rookie efficiency of 67.9% and apply it to a 150-target workload, you are looking at a tight end pulling down well over 100 catches in a single season. That level of production doesn't just win a few games, it completely redefines how a team plays the sport.
Now, if Warren hits that 102 catch projection we just talked about, he isn't just having a good year. He is joining the most exclusive, elite company in the sport. We are talking about the absolute gold standard of modern tight ends. Look at the numbers. Trey McBride put up 126 receptions in 2025. Brock Bowers hauling in 112 in 2024. Warren is right there, on the verge of forcing his name into the argument for the single best tight end in the entire National Football League. His trajectory is almost entirely unprecedented for a player just entering his second year in this specific system, catapulting him into a tier of pass catchers that literally dictate the flow of entire seasons.
But every projection carries a shadow of doubt. And that brings us to the absolutely critical tension point of this explainer. Can Tyler Warren actually thrive without Michael Pittman Jr. on the field to draw the defensive attention? Last year, defenses absolutely had to respect Pittman on the outside. That naturally created softer, more manageable matchups for Warren in the interior. Well, that luxury is completely gone. Warren must now beat defenses that know exactly who is getting the ball on every single crucial down. Every defensive coordinator in the AFC South is spending their entire summer devising complex bracket coverages specifically designed to stop him. Bracket coverage, where a linebacker takes him underneath, physically absorbing the initial contact at the line, and a safety caps him over the top to completely eliminate the deep ball, that will become his terrifying new reality. Defenses will throw exotic blitzes at the line of scrimmage just to disrupt his release by a fraction of a second. The pressure on this young player's shoulders is going to be truly immense.
Furthermore, we have to remember, a receiver is only as effective as the man actually delivering the football. This is what we call the quarterback variable. Warren's path to greatness hinges entirely on health at the game's most vital position. On side A, you have Daniel Jones, who Warren immediately clicked with. But Jones is returning from a devastating Achilles injury that totally derailed his 2025 campaign. Achilles injuries are notoriously brutal to recover from, and we have to look at the microscopic biomechanics of why that is. A quarterback generates all his throwing power from the ground up,
planting that back foot into the turf to violently drive the football downfield. A surgically repaired Achilles tendon saps velocity from throws over the middle, the exact, precise kind of throws a tight end like Warren relies on to survive. If Jones cannot generate that sheer velocity, those tight NFL windows close in a fraction of a second. And on side B, if Jones falters, the Colts are relying on backups Phillip Rivers and Riley Leonard. Last season, when Jones went down, Warren's numbers understandably dropped as the backups had to take the offensive reins. So Warren's ultimate destiny is tied directly to the fragile, healing tendon of his starting quarterback.
Section 4. An undrafted defensive enforcer.
Now, while the offense is out there chasing glamorous stats and all-pro designations, a very different, much darker battle is happening on the other side of the ball. We need to violently shift the narrative right now from the offensive stars to the gritty, desperate battle for sheer survival in the defensive trenches. From the brutal, muddy trenches of the SEC to a fragile NFL lifeline, this is the incredible emergence of West Weeks. Listen, when you are an undrafted free agent, you do not get the benefit of the doubt, ever. You don't get guaranteed money, and you certainly don't get a long leash from the coaching staff. You get one fleeting, tiny window of opportunity to prove you belong among the most elite athletes on the planet. And you have to do it in the absolutely brutal conditions of a rookie minicamp. We are talking about sweltering heat, absolute physical exhaustion, and the terrifying psychological reality of having zero job security. Coming out of LSU, Weeks entered the Colts rookie minicamp as literally just another body on the 90-man roster, but he is rapidly transformed into a relentless force, fighting with every ounce of his being to secure a spot. He is playing out there with the pure, unadulterated desperation of a man who knows that any given practice could literally be his last day in the National Football League.
Consider this resume. It's a resume of pure violence. These are West Week's final year statistics at LSU, and they read exactly like a blueprint for a modern NFL enforcer. 74 total tackles. That requires a relentless, nonstop motor and an innate instinct for finding the ball carrier in incredibly heavy traffic. 8 tackles for loss. This right here is the microscopic detail that NFL evaluators absolutely obsess over. A tackle for loss proves that a linebacker has the explosive burst to shoot gaps. Shooting gaps requires a split-second processing speed to instantly diagnose a run play, the brute force to violently shed a 300-pound offensive lineman, and the pure explosion to make a tackle behind the line of scrimmage before the play even really begins. Add in 2.5 sacks and a broken-up pass, and you are looking at a highly specialized, highly aggressive skill set. This isn't just a football player. This is a heat-seeking missile built specifically for the chaos of the defensive interior.
But you know, you don't have to take my word for it. Just listen closely to the front office's actual words. Colts assistant general manager Ed Dodd stepped up to the podium and delivered this piece of documentary-level authenticity. He said, he's big and fast. He's good out here. He's moving even better out here than he was on the LSU tape. Think about that. When an executive of Dodd's caliber specifically singles out an undrafted rookie in front of the media, specifically noting he's moving better than his collegiate tape suggested, you pay attention. It means Weeks isn't just surviving the notoriously violent speed of the NFL. He is adapting to it. He is thriving in it. He is processing these incredibly complex defensive schemes faster and executing them with a level of pure ferocity that has the entire coaching staff completely captivated.
Section 5. Rebuilding the linebacker core.
So why is an undrafted rookie suddenly becoming the absolute focal point of the Colts' defensive evaluations? Well, we have to expose the terrifying reality of the Colts' defensive depth chart to explain why West Weeks is no longer just a nice, feel-good story. He is an absolute critical necessity. The middle of the defense is the nerve center of a football team. If it is weak, opposing running backs will tear right through the heart of your defense, and play-action passes will completely gut your secondary. And right now, Indianapolis is bleeding. Run through these heavily depleted names with me and see just how dangerously thin the margin for error truly is in that building. This is a remarkably precarious linebacker room. You have the lone returner Jalen Carleys, a former safety convert who has only managed to play 13 games across his first 2 seasons due to a brutal struggle with injuries. Behind him are CJ Allen and Bryce Botcher, 2 entirely unproven rookies who have never taken a meaningful professional snap. And rounding it out is Akeem Davis-Gaither, a free agent addition desperately trying to learn a completely new defensive system on the fly. You need a Mike linebacker capable of calling the defense and diagnosing plays in real time. You need a Will linebacker who can fluidly drop into coverage against elite, fast tight ends. And right now, the Colts have massive, glaring question marks at both spots. This depth chart is a literal house of cards. 1 injury in a preseason game, 1 misstep in practice, and the entire second level of the Colts' defense could violently collapse. This terrifying lack of depth is exactly why West Weeks actually has a legitimate, viable path to the final 53-man roster. But his survival hinges on two very specific, very critical factors. First, the absolute requirement, special teams dominance. Let's be real. In the NFL, backup linebackers do not make the team by just playing good defense. They make the team by running down on kickoffs and completely shattering wedge blocks. I want you to picture the microscopic, visceral reality of a special teams collision. It is a full-speed, dead sprint over 40 yards, culminating in a violent, high-speed impact against a literal wall of massive blockers. It genuinely sounds like a car crash on the field. It requires a total disregard for your own personal safety, and Dodds explicitly noted Weeks' profile as a special teams impact player who actually embraces that violence. Second, his tactical advantage, familiarity playing alongside safety A.J. Halsey. Chemistry in the defensive back seven takes years to develop properly, miscommunications back there lead to blown coverages and instant back-breaking touchdowns. Weeks already has a built-in neurological connection with Halsey from their time together before, giving him a massive, microscopic edge over the other unproven rookies in the room. Make no mistake, these are his ultimate weapons for survival in this league.
Section 6. The Ultimate 2026 Reckoning.
We really need to zoom out to the macro level right now. We have thoroughly examined the offensive catalyst, and we've dug deep into the defensive survivor. Now we have to connect these two specific, very different players to the grand, overarching destiny of the team. A football team is an incredibly fragile ecosystem. The wild success of the high-profile stars is intrinsically linked to the sheer survival of the gritty, no-name underdogs. The 2026 Indianapolis Colts are a living, breathing case study in extreme roster dynamics. On one side of the practice facility, you have the elite prospect. Tyler Morin is out there actively chasing first-team All-Pro status, heavily burdened with a monumental expectation of replacing 80 receptions and single-handedly carrying the interior passing game on his shoulders. His success will be broadcast in prime time under the absolute brightest lights. But on the exact same team, in the exact same facility, you have the gritty survivor. Wes Weeks is fighting tooth and nail in the mud, utilizing pure physical violence on special teams just to secure a spot on a terrifyingly depleted defense. This is the full spectrum of an NFL franchise teetering on the brink, the glitz and glamour of a potential 150-target offensive season juxtaposed directly against the grim, ruthless reality of cutdown day in the defensive meeting room.
Which brings us to the final, chilling question we all have to ask. Reflect on the stark realities we have unpacked in this explainer today. The extreme reliance on a tight end to replace an anchor wide receiver, the heavy dependence on a quarterback recovering from a shredded Achilles tendon, the sheer undeniable desperation of relying on an undrafted free agent to somehow stabilize a fractured, unproven linebacker room. Is this the foundation of a resilient Super Bowl championship contender, or is this a fragile house of cards, just waiting for a single gust of wind to collapse it all? Will this tipping point lead to a glorious multi-year Super Bowl window, or will it plunge the entire franchise into a dark, unforgiving decade of irrelevance? The 2026 season holds all the answers, and the consequences will alter the course of this franchise forever. Thank you for joining us. Remember, your channel will be called NFL Nexus. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like this explainer, and comment on what you thought down below. And please, support the channel by becoming a channel member. We will be right here, watching every single microscopic detail as this monumental story unfolds. See you next time.